Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool, and we are Locked On Cowboys. We're going to be talking today about some of the All-22 notes that we have after watching this kind of ugly film from Week 17. But Landon, how are you doing today, sir?
It's not the best question to ask today. I had a struggle to get home from a series of plane flights last night. I'm trying to watch All-22 while cramped in a middle seat on a red eye back to LA is not ideal. But it does make you focus on that as opposed to the screaming baby that's 2 rows behind you. So I could be better, but I feel informed because I was able to focus.
I will say this. I don't think there's ever a good time to watch this tape. Let's just say that. I was in my house. I had my iPad sitting on the couch, and I still didn't enjoy it. So, all right, let's talk about.
I'll tell you this. There may not be a good time. There certainly are several bad times to watch the film, I found out. So I've discovered one of them.
There you go.
But yes, either way, it was not fun.
Let's start with the offense. Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, they were just off in this game, and they've been off for a few weeks now. Even last week when Amari had a better game, still not a lot of big plays. So what do you see from the tape? What's going on? Why are they just not hooking up the way they were earlier in the season?
I'm really confounded by this because it feels like it's kind of it's multiple things. It's Dak missing throws. Some of the things that I'm seeing now that I don't feel like I've seen at points was, I'm not a big believer in the body language or reading, that sort of postures and that sort of thing. But it felt like there were several times where Cooper got really frustrated. And was slow coming off the line. There was one route, I was just speaking generally. I think one of the flaws that I've started to see at times, not flaws, but things that Kellen Moore needs to work on more is his spacing of his downfield routes, right? Where it feels like there's too many times when Dak's ready to pull the trigger that they've got 2 receivers in the same general area down the field. And it makes it really easy especially in zone coverage, for teams to kind of, cover it up and have a lot of bodies there. One of those routes, they were running, it felt like Cooper got off the line really late. Just kind of really eased off the line. And because of the timing of everything, he runs it out. No. He runs a kind of a 9 as Lamb is running an out, or I might have that backwards. But the point is that because he got off the line late, by the time that they're both ready to get the ball, they're basically in the same area. Yep. So I think that's part of it, is that it feels like part of it is that, there's been some problems, bunching these guys up together downfield. Part of it has been, it feels like times Cooper is not fully running. I don't want to say he's not fully running his speed, but I don't understand why he's slow rolling off the line when there's not press coverage. He's not trying to beat a guy off the line and make a move. The guy was 10 yards down, downfield from him. And then another huge portion of this is, I think you talked about it. There were 6 pass breakups in this game, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't count, but I would guess that at least 4 of those were probably targeted to Cooper. It felt like. It felt like
the ball was going to go to Cooper, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do feel like there is, some circumstance there, but I also think that it's pass deflections at the line of scrimmage. There's some in-game reading stuff that I think that's different. That one target where Cooper stopped on a stop route and Dak sailed it. I think that Dak thought that Cooper was supposed to be running away from coverage. And I don't know if that was what he was supposed to be doing or not, but I think that that's at least what Dak thought he was supposed to be doing. So there's obviously some miscommunication there. Well, and so all those things are kind of adding up to not great stuff between those two.
And then there's other routes Troy Aikman pointed out during the broadcast, like Amari's one-on-one at the top of the screen with like the third best corner, and he beats the guy and he's open and he has 2 steps and Dak just doesn't pull the trigger. Now, maybe that wasn't the first read and whatever. At some point, Dak, you got to just kind of trust that your guy's going to get open and make the play, right? And I think that's the bigger issue here is whatever reason, there's a lack of trust between both sides, and it's killing the offense.
It's not just Cooper either. I think that, there was a point and finally he did do that, right? Like, I mean, but you go back and watch the tape. There was a couple different times where you saw guys open down the field and Dak just didn't seem willing to throw the ball to him. I think that and then finally when he did, unfortunately Gallup got hurt, but I mean, I think it worked. He scored the touchdown when he took the chance on his receiver being one-on-one on the outside. They should be taking those shots. Arizona was getting DPI calls. And I think that if you're going, that's the one thing I would say that's frustrating about these kind of games when the Cowboys are in. If the refs are going to be terrible and they're going to call everything,
just let your receiver go up and make a play. Don't be afraid to underthrow the ball just a little bit. And actually, this has been one of my biggest complaints about Dak is when he throws the ball down the field or on a fade, he'll sometimes throw the ball a little bit too much on a line rather than with a little bit more air, so the receiver can work back to the ball and either make the catch or try to draw pass interference. I think he needs to do a better job of giving his guys a chance to go make a play.
Now, having said that, they did do that on a play where they got a free play for an offsides, and they simply just didn't call the defensive pass interference that was blatant on Cooper as he went down the field. So,
although I think Amari could have done a better job at selling that.
That goes too. Again, I don't want to question his effort. It just feels like there's times when
I think they're frustrated.
Yeah, he's not sharp, or he seems disjointed with what's going on and not connected. And that's frustrating for us as well.
All right, I want to continue to talk about the offense, Landon. But before we do that, let's tell you guys about Get Upside. Get Upside, our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every single gallon of gas every single time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use promo code Touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That is promo code Touchdown. All right, let's talk more about the offense, and specifically the offensive line in the run game. I thought Connor Williams was really good in this game. I thought he won a lot of his individual matchups. Tyron Smith looked pretty rusty, and that's at least just my opinion. It looked like he's still getting his legs underneath him. What did you see from the offensive line?
Chandler Jones is a terrible matchup for almost any left tackle, and especially a left tackle who's still kind of working his way back from injury. And that's what we saw, right? This is blasphemy, and I'm going to say it. I'm concerned that Zach Martin is not 100%. I mean, there's definitely, and
he got hit a couple times inside bad by Corey Peters.
Yeah, and just times when he just got moved in ways that you don't see him get moved. So, I just feel like the offensive line really was up and down, and considering this is the first time we've seen them start together, this was the first game that we finally saw them all start together. I'm hoping that they're kind of still working their way back in. I mean, obviously, like I said, Tyron Smith is still working his way back from injury. Zach Martin just may have had a bad game, and again, it's been a long season, so that certainly is a possibility. But outside of all the ticky-tacky calls and stuff, and I need to mea culpa a little bit. After watching the All-22, Lael Collins' hold was a little bit clearer than it was on the goal line. He did prevent the guy from getting outside. I think you still could have not called it and been fine, but
I'm fine with calling that one as long as you call it DeMarcus Lawrence one in the end zone.
Right? Absolutely, right? Yeah, and that's really the issue. And again,
that's the consistency. If you're going to call one, call the other. I honestly, I'm fine just not calling either. We don't need those kind of flags in the game. It just slows down the flow of the game.
Yeah,
but
and then I think I think Connor Williams, they're not going to allow us. Connor Williams also got called for a hold where basically he got called because Jordan Hicks got tackled by his own man, and they basically made it look like he was, dragging him to the ground when in reality he just got run up on. So I just feel like the offensive line in general, had some moments. I think they struggled really early on. I think they kind of found their way a little bit more as the game went on, and I think that you saw that in kind of improved drives to a certain point. But I mean, the offensive line penalties specifically, whether they deserved them or not, those were moments that really killed at least 3 or 4 drives. So that's
we should talk about the run game, because this run game has basically been non-existent since New England, right? I mean, they've had some runs where like Tony Pollard's cracked a long run, but I think I've seen now Ezekiel Elliott hasn't had a run for more than 6 yards in like 5 weeks.
Well, he's had 3 called back from penalties in the last 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean
that's part of the issue. Like, and I don't even think that. I mean, let me ask you this: are you looking at what's happening with the run game and thinking that this is a Zeke problem, or thinking that this is an offensive line problem? Because
both.
To me, this is an offensive line. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could say
both. I would say 95% offensive line, 5% Zeke.
Yeah. Well, and Pollard's in there too.
Pollard.
Sure. Yeah, I think that it's been an issue of just kind of getting things clean, and again, some of it is scheme. Like, why are we having Dalton Schultz multiple times hinge blocking Chandler Jones? Like, that just seems like a recipe for disaster, So I think that there is some stuff that needs to be kind of worked out. And again, it felt like we were going back to a just heavy dosage of zone runs as opposed to trying to get guys outside on the move out and blocking with power. So it just felt like, like last week they did all the things that we wanted them to do, and then they kind of just reverted back this week, and that's a little bit frustrating.
I will say one of the things that I am concerned about going forward is they either got to figure out a way to run out of heavy boxes and create big like chunk runs, which they're not doing unless Tony Pollard breaks one, but we've seen them do it like once in the last 2 months, right? Like against the Saints, or they need to be able to throw out of those and create big plays. The Cardinals seemed like they were unafraid of the Cowboys throwing the ball down the field in this game at all, right? Like on that screen pass that Budda Baker actually overran, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, we're seeing this more and more, just these teams just having the safeties creep up to the line of scrimmage, shooting gaps, linebackers just kind of shooting in, and there's no repercussions at all for the Cowboys beating them down the field. I think there's way too many screen calls from Kellen Moore, not enough play action shots down the field. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they need to kind of cool it on the screens, or at least those kind of long developing screens. I really like it when they swing the ball out quickly, like like they're not even necessarily tunnel screens, or it's more just smoke, right? Where they just Dak gets the ball and throws it to the wide receiver because the corners are off, right? And then
that makes sense. Not when guys are flying up in the box, though.
Well, if it has to develop up, if it has to develop so long that the safety has enough time to read it, run to it, and overrun the play. I mean, basically, got there too quick to make the play. Yeah, that's problematic. And I, the other thing too is, and this is going to be really, and I think I said it before, but I'm leaning full into this. Man, it's time to start giving Cedric Wilson and Dalton Schultz more targets, because if we're not going to convert these with Lamb and Cooper and really Gallup before he got hurt, I need to have consistency in this offense. And right now, I don't feel that any of our starting top 3 wide receivers, well, now just the 2, are playing very consistent football.
No.
And are I think that they are incredible athletes and they're incredible at getting open, but they aren't functioning very well inside the offense, and even when they get the opportunity, it's just, I need Lamb to be more of a vet, like when he catches that ball on 3rd and 9, get the first down. Don't try to, break the guy down for a 30 yards and then fail to get the 1 yard that you need, and then make us waste 2 more downs to try to get that 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 1. Like, get the first down and keep the ball moving. It just feels like there's too many times when, it just feels like the offense basically wasn't able to do anything until, you start getting Cedric Wilson involved, and now they're moving the ball down the field. It's just like, which I'm just going by what I see, I don't have any answers here. But it's just been multiple weeks now where it feels like the outside passing attack, and it's not just the coverage. It's because, there's times when these guys are open and there's just the ball's not getting to them, or Dak's not throwing it, or whatever. I don't really care. Like, obviously he's more comfortable with getting the ball to Cedric Wilson and Dalton Schultz. Then do that more. I don't really understand why they wouldn't.
I agree with you. The one thing that, and it's kind of lacked all season long, and you haven't really noticed it, but this team just doesn't create a lot of huge plays. Like, for example, they'll have games where they have, I'm looking at this right now, Landon. This is big plays. So big plays are defined as 10-yard runs or 20-yard completions. They had 12 against the Panthers, 13 against the Giants, and 10 against the Patriots, okay? Yeah. They had 4 against the Cardinals, 4 explosive plays. And my biggest problem is they haven't had the huge plays, the 40 and 50-yard plays in a long time. And offense is just really, really hard.
They have, but it's been Malik Turner. It's been Cedric Wilson. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. But you're right. My thing is, though, it's really hard to play offense consistently, moving the ball, on 1st and 2nd down and 3rd down to score 30 points without having those big chunk plays, right? Like, offense is just hard because of penalties. And we saw this play out on Sunday. You can be having a fantastic 12-play drive and you have a 15-yard run and there's a holding call and the drive's over. That's what makes it so difficult. I just would like to see something kind of jumpstart this offense, because we haven't had a game of 8 or more big plays since week 4. It's been that long since the Cowboys have had just a game where they're consistently moving the ball in big chunks.
I agree. And something's got to change. And the idea was that Cooper and Lamb are those guys to get these kind of chunk plays. But right now, we're not even consistently getting completions with these guys. So why not flip the script a little bit? Why not make Wilson and Schultz kind of more the reliable, consistent part of your passing game until they shift the coverage a little bit more away from Cooper and Lamb, and then you can take your shots down the field with those guys. I just, right now it feels like they're banging their heads against the wall to try to give touches to guys who aren't playing very efficiently. Or at least, again, I don't want to blame them, but the hookup between Dak and these guys isn't necessarily as efficient as it once was. And if you aren't going to get big plays out of them, then what are we doing? You're wasting touches on inefficiency. Let's get more efficient. And honestly, I think that's really been the problem throughout the year at times, is that this is an offense that at times could do whatever it needed to score, but they haven't had anything that they can rely on. And especially, like these last few weeks, it feels like they've gone kind of week to week on what is, something that they can rely on to be good for them when other things aren't working. And I think that the things that they have been reliably good on, they don't always avail themselves of. Tempo, throwing to the tight end, getting Dak on the move with play action. Part of that was because of his own problems, like inability kind of to throw the waggle for a while with his calf. But it feels like a lot of that's gone, and he's been able to do that. So I think those are the things that they kind of are consistently good at. And instead, what they want to do all the time is run wide zone into 9-man boxes, or run inside zone into 8-man boxes, or run really elaborate plays that Dak gets enough time for blocking, but the receivers are kind of all bunched up into one area, so he has nowhere to go. I just think that they need and this goes into the larger issue of what Arizona was doing to us, right? They were bringing Buddha down to the box, and then he would sprint back into the in the secondary as soon as the snap happened, and they would rotate their safeties. They would play with the box counts. They were doing things to try to screw things up for Dak pre-snap, and I think the way to get away from that is to go tempo again. Don't think about it. Don't make adjustments. You know, get into your fast break offense. If they have problems with it, if it works, then you keep hitting them with it. And as soon as it stops, then you change it.
Because they don't have time to disguise that kind of stuff, right? Like
exactly.
If you're snapping the ball with 20 seconds left in the play clock, Buddha can't do that. He's going to have to line up wherever he lines up. Last thing. From weeks 4 through 6, the Cowboys had 35 big plays. From weeks 10 through 17, 35 big plays.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like. Yeah,
right? Yeah,
it is the story.
All right, let's take one more quick break so we can tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC. Right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. So don't wait to take advantage today of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, just a couple things on defense before we move on. Trevon Diggs did not have a very good game in this one. Got beat early to AJ Green. That was kind of set up the Cardinals' first touchdown. Just did not have a strong game. Any idea why? You would think AJ Green would be a good matchup for him, but for whatever reason, it wasn't.
Probably he was reading all the PFF tweets. Yeah, you're right. This is a game that we even talked about, that it seems like it would be a good matchup for him. Look, he definitely been on the double move. That is going to happen with those guys. With the guys that are getting the 11 and 12 interceptions a season, sometimes they're going to get beat on specifically that double move, right? The slant and go, the sluggo, because that's where people are anticipating the route and trying to break on it. But I mean that's not an excuse for some of the other stuff, right? And I felt like there was times when AJ Green was able to separate and get open. There were times when he pushed off pretty heavily, but I mean, you got to be able to fight through that. And a lot of times, especially in these games where that I guess not like this game that we played in, but in other games where they're not calling anything.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't understand why I didn't call that, but you have to be able to fight through that, and you have to be able to make the play regardless. So I think it was kind of a rough game for him, especially early on. I feel like things kind of evened out a little bit in the second half, but he struggled a little bit earlier.
I am worried about the Cowboys and Cardinals, and if they play again for the matchup that we saw in this one. Like, Christian Kirk is just a bad matchup for their corners. Like, for whatever reason, he was open a lot in this game, and a couple times Kyler missed him. A couple times they connected. I think he gives them some unique challenges from the slot. And then Antoine Wesley, like a guy that we really didn't talk about a lot on this show last week, but if it's going to be Jordan Lewis covering Wesley, that's a big size disadvantage. If it's going to be Anthony Brown covering Wesley, that's a big size disadvantage. Kelvin Joseph makes sense, but are you going to put a rookie out there in a playoff game to cover Wesley? I don't know. Their corners just didn't have a very good game on Sunday, and they really let him down, especially early in this one.
Well, I mean, I got to say, too, I hated the defensive game plan early on. I mean, I understand.
I did too. It was awful.
I understand the idea that, like, you're not trying to have him break the pocket, and I understand the idea of the mush rush, but he had all day back there, and these guys can't cover these guys forever. The sluggo is one thing, but I mean, there's just they had several different shots where they were running deep fades from the slot, and that takes time, and so the fact that they weren't able to kind of generate any sort of pass rush early in this game, that felt by design. It didn't feel like it was necessarily because the Cowboys couldn't do it. And if the Cowboys couldn't do it, that's even more concerning, considering who was playing in that game on the offensive line for Arizona. So I think later in the game they definitely were able to generate a lot more pressure. And it helped at certainly at different points. Parsons didn't get a sack, but he forced some throws. Clearly they were concerned with Parsons as we could see in the tape that they were, that Murray knew exactly where he was and was constantly trying to roll opposite of wherever Parsons was, just to give him a little bit more time. But I think the Cowboys have got to find a way to pressure Murray and then deal with what happens if he comes out of the pocket. Maybe that's what they need to do is more of a blitz situation, and then just leave Parsons on the back end to kind of spy him if he breaks the pocket to close. So
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they kind of missed Keanu Neal on Sunday.
Man, that's saying something.
I mean, I know. Listen, trust me, I know, because Keanu Neal is not somebody I think has been pretty good this year, but they've needed somebody that could do some of the spying stuff to fill in when Parsons was rushing. Like, they just didn't have anybody there. They didn't have anybody to cover Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz didn't have a huge game, but he made a couple of big plays in this game to move the chains. They just are really missing that other guy that can run sideline to sideline if it's not Micah Parsons, right?
Yeah, I thought Leighton Vander Esch had a good game, but
he was fine. But that's not really his game anymore.
That's not really
right?
his game. Yeah, necessarily, for
used
sure.
To be.
Kind of, yeah.
I really don't know what Leighton Vander Esch is anymore. He's completely changed since he's been a rookie. Like, he used to be this height, weight, speed freak, and now I don't know what he is. I mean, he had a good game. There's no doubt about it. But
exactly, yeah. I mean, it's much like what happened with Jalen, right? It's just like he just kind of doesn't have a role necessarily. I mean, even he played well in the game, but he's not like, he's kind of generic linebacker when you need linebacker snaps. Right.
I like it. Generic linebacker. Just get in there, linebacker. Go make
in there, linebacker. Yeah.
All right. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll answer your Twitter questions. We could talk about later, maybe a big addition to the Cowboys run game this week. I don't know if you saw this, but Blake Jarwin, he's coming back, baby.
Baby. All right. Now hey, listen, I mean, all kidding aside, I really do think that's going to help. I don't know if it's going to help in the run game.
It's not going to in the run game, no.
But I do think that, another competent pass catcher in the middle of the field could help with Schultz,
especially with Gallup being gone, right? Like, it just gives you
absolutely.
Another look.
Yeah, it gives you a starting. It maintains that you still have two solid personnel groups where you've got players that you like, so I think clearly we like Cedric Wilson, like I've mentioned, obviously, and I think Jarwin gives you a guy that can be kind of that 20-yard, he can be a big play guy, maybe not 40 yards, but he can do a 20-yard seam route. He can be a red zone target, so we'll see exactly how that all plays out.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how Blake Jarwin and Sean McEwen pair together, because that's the Cowboys' ideal tight end combo, right?
Oh, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Come on now.
Wednesday, Twitter questions. Thursday, we'll have a crossover. Talk to the Eagles guys about their season. Their wild season. And then Friday, we've got a preview as the Cowboys will take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the final game of the season. I can't believe it's already week 18, but make sure you're downloading the podcast. I know you are, because you're listening to this. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Please continue to rate us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Landon at McCool BCB. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we'll see you next time.